At this time, I want to focus on the importance of the retired players, their representatives, and derivatives to register for benefits. Without registering for benefits, none of these people will be eligible for benefits. Registration can be accomplished online or by email or by regular mail. I expect that Mr. Siegel will explain this. Deadlines are important. In order to even qualify for benefits, a party must register by August 7, 2017. Let's remember that date, August 7, 2017. That is August 7 of this year. Fortunately, attorneys for both sides have given me their assurances that they are committed to see that those who are entitled to benefits will be paid, and those who do not qualify will be precluded from any gain. My job is to see that justice is done. Again, registration ends on August 7th, so please sign up immediately.
So to start with my PowerPoint, I'll stand if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
I guess I have to take this microphone out. First, as Your Honor summarized, it's been a long path. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this slide, but this case was approved by Your Honor back in April of 2015. For the last 2 years, we've been handling appeals up through the Supreme Court, but the case is done, it's final, and these benefits are now going to roll out and be made available. We have used, Plaintiffs' Counsel has used this time. In some respects, it was a disappointment that the delays occurred. I mean, we lost our class rep, Kevin Turner, who, it's important to note, he died of ALS. He was really the face of this case in many respects. He was the go-to person. He was involved. He was aware of the settlement. He was guiding us, and he's not here, and we lost him. But we used this time wisely in that we've worked closely with the independent administrators to get the settlement to where we are now. A reminder to the retired players that there are 3 important aspects of it. The baseline assessment, these are not necessarily in order of priority, but I put the baseline assessment first because we need every retired player tested. I mean, that is critical. Whether you feel fine or not, you need to be tested. It's important for your own health, and it's also important for the benefits because you need to go through the baseline assessment program to ensure that if you do get a monetary award, you get the full amount. There is a deduction of 10% in certain circumstances if you don't go through the baseline assessment. And that is to encourage everybody to do it. We can go into more detail later, Your Honor, if you want to talk about how important that test is. But the obvious point is, if you're a young player feeling fine today and you're tested, we have those test results that we can compare 10, 20, 30 years down the road if there is, unfortunately, a neurocognitive decline. The Monetary Award Fund, as everybody knows, is uncapped. So that means everybody who is entitled to who gets a qualifying diagnosis and is entitled to compensation will get it. And as Brad Karp noted, the education program, which we still need to discuss with Your Honor as to how that money will be invested, we have $10 million for that. The BAP, which is a short for Baseline Assessment Program, I want to talk about the timing and when people need to get in there. If you are 45 years or older, you have 2 years to get tested in the baseline assessment. If you are younger than 45, you have the earlier of 10 years or when you turn 45. So that's very important. The monetary awards will be given to people who are diagnosed with these conditions. ALS, death with CTE, so long as that diagnosis was made before April 22nd, 2015, which was the date that the case was finally approved. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and then we have 2 categories of neurocognitive impairment, and we have referred to level 1.5, for example, is early dementia. And the idea there was not to wait until players have fully progressed, full-blown dementia. It was to get compensation out the door to the players who need it. And obviously, if the condition degrades into level 2 neurocognitive impairment, there will be additional compensation that the players will receive. And just some aspects of the settlement that's worth going through. It's uncapped, as I mentioned. No player will be required to prove causation in this settlement. You need to be a retired player. You give the information about your status as a retired player, years played in the league, and your age, and the monetary awards will be based on that. There are a couple of deductions for head injuries that might have occurred that are unrelated to football, but we don't need to deal, I think, with those details right now. Just wanted to make that point. One of the things we can talk about a little later, but the NFL is not deciding who is compensable here. These are independent doctors, independently recruited by independent claim administrators, overseen by the court's special masters and the court. And that's just an important point I think we need to get out. Importantly also, the settlement program does not interfere with the player's ability to get disability benefits under the union contracts, the collective bargaining agreements. So if you're entitled to compensation or benefits here, you'll also get, if you are a vested player, whatever benefits the union provides. Oops, sorry, I went too fast. Now, I want to pause on this. Registration, it's critical. You'll hear this many times. It's worth noting, and I would just say, if a player watching this remembers nothing from today, you have to remember to register. It's the one thing you have to take away from this status conference. It began on February 6th. It ends on August 7th. It is a simple process. Here is the information you need. If you go online and you want to do it online, very simple. It's a very simple form with very basic information. If you have an attorney, I'm sure attorneys are doing that on behalf of their clients. You can do it by mail if you'd like. The actual registration form will be mailed out. You can fill it out and send it in. If you do not register, those big words at the bottom, those big red words, you will not be available, you will not be able to participate in settlement benefits. So that's critical. There's a timeline. I'm not going to go through every detail here about all the things that we have, because I think it's really most important to focus on registration. But once you're registered, you will get communications from the claim administrator on a regular basis informing you of what you need to do to file a claim form, what you need to do to schedule a BAP, baseline assessment. You'll get that information, but we need you registered to get it. Your Honor, with that, if it's okay, I'd like to introduce Orrin Brown, and he will spend a few minutes talking about the settlement as well. Orrin?
Mr. Brown, why don't you come forward?
Right, thank you, Chris. And good morning, Your Honor. I'm Orrin Brown from Brown Greer in Richmond, Virginia. We are the claims administrator for the settlement program. So let's talk about our immediate phase that we're in. And some of this will sound familiar because Mr. Seeger has already said it, but we really cannot say it enough about registration. Everybody has to register, and everyone should know that over the last couple of years, we've had a function on the website where you could sign up for additional information. Just give us a name and contact information. We've had over 12,000 people who did that, but that's not the same as registration. The settlement agreement requires us to start over with registration, requires more information, so everyone, even if you signed up with us before and you're on our mailing list, everyone has to register now through the processes that Mr. Seeger described, and I'm going to show in a moment very quickly. So the settlement became effective on January the 7th. The registration then opened 30 days later, this past Monday on the 6th, online and on paper. And again, have to stress that the deadline for retired players to register is August 7, 2017, this year, which is 180 days from when it opened. There is this derivative claimants. Family members have a little bit different schedule. We want them to register now. We'd like for everybody to register now, and a lot of them are. But they have, under the settlement, 30 days after the player with whom they're associated gives us a claim package. They may still register then. We'd like for them to do it now. When the player submits a claim package, we're going to send notice to all the derivatives that we know about to tell them you need to get your materials into us as well. As Mr. Seeger mentioned, you can register online. That's the quickest and easiest way to do it. You go to this website that we'll see in a moment and just follow the instructions on screen. You can also, though, there's a hard copy registration form that you can get from the website and download, or you can ask us for it. It's also in the supplemental class notice that was mailed on Monday. There's a form in there, so you can fill that out and send it in to us by mail or email, and we'll put you in with the registrations. We like for people to register online. And this is a screenshot, which is is sort of hard to see in this setting, but this is the home page of the settlement website now. It has a big Register Now button that allows people to just start right there. If you click Register Now, you're off and running into the process to register. And this basically tells you the steps. The ways you can register are all visible right here on the home page. And if you click Register Now, you'll see this right here. You click that Register Now button, and you'll get this screen. This is the next screen. And we've walked through this ourselves, and if a player has his information handy, you can do this in about 90 seconds if you go through these screens. So it's really easy, but you'll see you have to pick. This is available to everyone. This is what everyone says. If you're a player, you're going to click I'm a player. You just click one of these buttons. If you're a representative claimant of a deceased or incapacitated player, retired player, you click representative claimant. If you're a family member or derivative claimant, you click that. If you're a lawyer who represents some of these settlement class members, you click here, and then the system will take you to the screens that you need to see, depending upon who you are. It won't ask you for anything that you don't need to submit. It's tailored to whoever you say you are. You get the screens you need. Derivative claimants and representative claimants have to submit a little bit more information because they have to tell us who they are and who the player is that they are representing or associated with. If you click I'm a retired NFL football player, you get this screen. You're entering and giving us your name and your social security number. And the reason we ask for that is that we need it to keep people separate. People with common names, we have to be able to distinguish between them. We keep this secure. It's only used for that purpose and nothing else. No one else sees it but us and you, the player. So giving us your security number, we need it for administration purposes, but no one else sees it. They enter their date of birth, and then they enter as best they can the teams they played for and the years they played for, and then they move on. And you click continue, and you get this screen, which if you know your settlement program ID, this screen is just getting your address and contact information and making sure it's right. If they know their ID, which has been in the notices, they can fill in the number here, and all of this pre-fills for them. They don't have to retype it. But if they don't have that, that's fine. They just fill in their address. They tell us how they'd like to communicate with us, either by email or through this internet interface with us. And then they get to this screen. If they're asked to verify the information they've entered, they click that verify button, and they're done. Their registration form is submitted to us. You can click on that My Registration Form button and actually see it. You can see what your form looks like as filled out. You can print it out if you'd like, but you don't have to do anything else with it with us. You're in. If you'd like, then you get this option to set up an account with us. It's like shopping online. You set up your own private, secure account with us by entering your username you pick a password, you answer these security questions. This is routine for people who use online accounts, and we have to ask this information for security purposes. You don't have to do this. We hope that users do, because the best way for us and quickest way for us to communicate is through our connection online. But this you fill out if you wish. You can come back and do it later and set up the account, but you're basically finished with registration at that point.
Oren, can I just ask you to clarify 2 points, Your Honor? Do you mind if I?
No, of course not.
All right, 2 things. You mentioned opening the account and the identifier. I know that players already, I don't want them to be confused. If you open your own account, can you track the process of your own claim?
Yes, certainly.
And you'll know every aspect of it?
Yes, and that's the beauty of opening an account with us is you come back, you enter your username and your password, you can see your materials, you can see your status, you can see anything we've sent to you, no one else can see it but you and us, but you see whatever is going on, and that's the way to keep checking back in. And in fact, when we send you notices, we'll send you an email that says, please go to your portal and check this. There's something new for you.
What does a player do if he loses the identifier that you give them, the number you assign to them? Because
Right.
I'm already hearing some are not remembering.
All right, if they've lost their settlement program ID, which is your NUG ID, it doesn't matter. You can just go on by your name, or you can contact us and ask us, and we'll give it to you as soon as we confirm that you are the person you say you are. If you lose your username or password for the online connection, then it's just like you do when you go back to Amazon. If you can't remember it, you'll say forgot password, and we'll send you an email and get you reset. Same thing. So nobody's going to get stumped by not having a number. It doesn't matter. We're not about numbers or putting blocks in the way. We're about making this easy and fast. And Your Honor, the last thing to mention is claims, looking ahead a little bit to the next phase. On March 23rd of 2017 is when we'll receive our first claim package, when you can first start filing claim packages with us. All of those instructions will be on the website, just like the registration. There are some deadlines that Mr. Seeger mentioned about when you get diagnosed, depending upon whether you were diagnosed before or after the effective date. We're going to go through those claims. We're going to do our job under the settlement. If all goes well, and because we have to go through a process about whether it's complete or not, back to the claimant, there are chances and periods built into the settlement for appeals if the outcome is not satisfactory. But if all of that plays out, if you had a perfect claim that didn't have anything missing, we could start issuing payments in mid to late July at the very earliest. But we're committed to make that happen as soon as we can.
The next portion of what we wanted to address were that a number of players have serious questions they wanted to ask. And we've been getting questions through both the website, to us on email, and we thought now might be, if Your Honor agrees, now a good time to maybe deal with some of those questions.
Okay, let me just, I've been handed the questions that some of those people who have written in, and I will. Did I register when I signed up for information?
And that was addressed today. This is very important. I've been going around speaking with players, and I get asked this a lot. I'm already registered. You are not already registered if you have not filled out a registration form. When you clicked on the website in the past couple of years during the appeals, you really were just providing information so we could communicate with you, but we still need you to register. You have to start the process all over again. So please do that.
Okay, what types of documents are required to register?
It's a simple registration form, as Your Honor knows, because you've seen it and approved it. It is as simple as we could get it. You just have to provide basic information, your name, social security number, what years you played and teams you played for, and then you are registered. And that form, by the way, is being mailed out to everybody. If you choose to return it by mail, I think the claim administrator would rather do this online. I think it'd be easier to do online. We timed it, and Oren, I think we had an average of about 2 minutes to complete the online registration process. It's really simple.
Okay.
So we need him to do it.
But there is an alternative to mail it, of mailing it in or
Yes.
emailing it in, as I
Yes,
understand. Is
you
that
could do-
correct?
Yes, Your Honor, you could do either one.
Okay. I was employed by a member club at training camp but never played in a game. Am I in the class and should I register?
Okay, to the first question, you are in the class. And yes, you should register because you still may be entitled to get a benefit from the monetary award fund. The other thing is if you were in a training camp or a practice squad, and I believe the rule is if you were in a practice squad for 8 games, you will be eligible for the baseline assessment program. So the first step in determining all this is to get the player registered, and then you'll be contacted about what benefits you're entitled to.
How long after I submit my registration will I be registered?
It's immediate. If you do it online, it's immediate. When you click registered, you're done. Now, that doesn't mean there might not be some follow-up. If there's some confusion over what years you played or what leagues you played, the administrator will follow up. That's all being overseen by the special masters, lead counsel, and others to make sure nobody falls through the cracks. But we don't see any reason sitting here right now as to why people cannot be registered once they're done filling out the form.
Okay, someone else asked, Should retired players contact the member clubs they played for to get copies of their old medical records and employment histories?
So I understand a lot of players want to do that, and maybe even some lawyers think that's a good idea. I actually think that will create more confusion than just following the processes online. You don't need to contact a member club. The database that the NFL has been made available to the settlement. The NFL has made their information available.
Good.
Orrin Brown, as the independent claim administrator, can do those searches and get the information you need. And if there's any reason a club needs to be contacted, they could be contacted through the settlement, so the player still doesn't really need to reach out to the member club themselves.
Okay. First of all, tell me what a BAP is. We've heard a lot about these BAPs.
Yeah, that's the baseline assessment program. And probably most players understand that by now because they've seen so much about it, but it's the baseline assessment program.
And who's eligible for the BAP, and why should I participate?
If you have played in the NFL for a half season or more, you're eligible for the BAP. There is that one exception I mentioned of players who might have been on a practice squad for 8 games, but if you've played a half season or more, you're eligible to get the baseline assessment program. And yes, you must register to get that.
Is there a deadline for participation in the BAP?
Well, so that you have to, if you're 45 or older, you have 2 years to schedule your appointment. If you're younger than 45, you have the earlier of 10 years or when you turn 45. 43, I'm being corrected. It's the earlier of 10 years and when you turn 43. Thank you for that correction, that's important.
Okay. Well, this is, I think, has been covered, but I consider it the most important aspects of this entire settlement. Is the NFL running the BAP and hiring the qualified BAP providers?
Yeah, so, and we've all addressed this several times, and it's important. This program was set up as an independent program, supervised ultimately by Your Honor. Your Honor has appointed 2 special masters that are also involved in that supervisory process. Lead counsel is very, very much, and the plaintiff steering committee is very, very much involved in this. Now, the NFL has their role, but this is an independent program, and it is being set up that way.
That's very important.
Yes.
Who will be examining the retired players in the BAP examinations?
So they're going to be, it's a joint process. There will be a neurologist involved and a neuropsychologist. And that's not unusual for people who know about this area. There's certain testing that is done by a neuropsychologist. Those results are typically provided to a neurologist who will make the diagnosis.
Will BAP providers have any conflicts due to prior work for the NFL?
If you've done prior work for the NFL, that is a basis for conflict, and it is a basis to eliminate a provider.
Do I schedule the BAP examination directly with the BAP provider?
No. The Garrettson Group, which is handling setting up the baseline assessment program, will contact the players, and they will schedule the appointments for them and with them.
Okay, I am in the 88 plan, which is, I understand, the players' union. Do I need to participate in the BAP, and will I automatically qualify for a monetary award?
All right, so the players need to understand that those are 2 separate programs, but if they are eligible to get benefits under their collective bargaining agreement under the 88 plan, they can do that. And that is separate from here. They would just because they have something that they've done in the 88 plan does not mean that's going to be accepted in the settlement. They will have to go through the procedures here, and that is to be examined by a doctor who's recruited into the Monetary Award Fund network.
Okay. If I register, will I have submitted a claim?
No. If you registered, that starts the process. That means we help them. We'll make sure that they don't miss we'll do the best we can to make sure that they don't miss other deadlines and that they have access to all the available benefits. That's just the beginning. They still will have to complete and fill out a claim form. And that process will begin of filling out claim forms and submitting them on March 23rd, 2017. And it's going to continue for 65 years.
Okay. Let's go through this. What will be needed to submit a claim?
Yeah, there are 4 important things. Obviously, registration. You need to get a qualifying diagnosis. And that can be, if it exists prior to the time the settlement was effective, and you have that from your own doctor, you can submit that. After the settlement is effected, you have to go through the Monetary Award Fund doctors. But you need a qualifying diagnosis, you need to complete a claim form, and then in addition to that, you need a diagnosing physician's certification, which if you go through the BAP or the MAF will be very easy for us to get. We'll just get the doctor who did the work to certify those are the results.
How can a retired player get a qualifying diagnosis for a claim?
Okay, so that kind of goes into what I just answered. I mean, they're gonna have to go through either the BAP, the Baseline Assessment Program, or the MAF, because you can be diagnosed through the BAP program for dementia. And then we'll have to get a diagnosing physician's certificate from one of the doctors that did it and the claim form.
How about other kinds of benefits that you were entitled to? For example, if you have Parkinson's, how do you get those?
Well, so that's actually very important because the Baseline Assessment Program is only set up to diagnose neurocognitive problems, but ALS and Parkinson's would be diagnosed outside of the BAP through the MAF with
Through the
Monetary Award Fund network of doctors that's being set up.
Okay.
So it is a little bit complicated, and they're going to need some guidance along the way, but that will be provided.
And will the guidance be provided?
Yes, they'll be provided all along, and they'll be advised on where they need to go.
Well, what are those? There are 4 different types of MAFs. Would you like to tell us what they are?
Yeah, so for the qualifying diagnosis, to
Yes.
throw another term out there, are ALS, it's Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. Now, dementia's been broken into 2 buckets, which is early dementia and full-blown dementia, but that's...
Okay. I am a child of a retired player. Can I submit a claim if he is deceased?
Yeah, so this is actually very important, and I hope people who are listening do this, and we're going to try to encourage them to. If your family member was a retired player, your father, grandfather, whatever it is, brother, and they are deceased, it's really important that they get those estate issues worked out. This has been a big source of a holdup in other settlements, as Oren can tell you, that family members submit a claim, but they haven't followed the appropriate estate requirements under the state's law. So they need to get somebody from the family appointed who can handle the claim submitted. If they do that in advance, they're going to save time. If they don't do that in advance, it's going to delay it, but it's not going to be rejected on that basis.
And will the former player, will these people get guidance from whom?
Yeah.
From Brown Greer, I
On that
assume.
issue, yes, absolutely.
I am a former spouse of a retired player. May I submit a claim?
Yeah, so that would be what we call in the settlement a derivative claim, and they would be entitled to submit a claim. They have to register, just like the players do. So if you're a retired player's ex-wife or a family member, if they're deceased, you should still register for the benefits. And they can submit a claim. Now, I can't get into whether an ex-spouse would be entitled to a recovery. It's going to depend on when they were divorced, when they were married, but they should register to at least be eligible for that.
How much and when will I be paid?
So nobody's able to tell how much at this point. There is a matrix that's available online that sets out the base awards. If you're 45 and younger, if you've gotten any of the qualifying diagnosis, those amounts are there. If you're older, they are reduced by the certain amounts based on your age. They're also reduced if you played less than 5 years in the NFL. So you can go online and look at that. You know, when you get paid is going to be a function also of when you get the claim in. I mean, we got to get people registered. They got to file their claims. They will get in the queue. And I can tell you that the administrators that are appointed in this case are the best of the best. They've handled very large cases, and they have gotten money out the door very quickly.
What if a retired player's condition worsens after they receive an award for a qualifying diagnosis?
So I touched on this a little bit earlier. There are supplemental benefits provided for. If you start out with dementia and somehow are ultimately then diagnosed later with Alzheimer's, you would be entitled to a supplemental benefit based upon where you are on that grid. It's a little complicated. But if your condition worsens, you know, if you were there are instances where that won't occur. If you were diagnosed in the initial instance with Alzheimer's and that condition worsens, that will be your diagnosis and your compensation. But if you were diagnosed in one category and it worsens into another, ALS or Alzheimer's, there would be an upgrade of the payment, which is called a supplemental award.
If I previously opted out, is there any way for me to be considered today? And I'd like maybe you would address that, Mr. Karp. Is there any way, or Mr. Birnbaum, that may they apply, and would you consider that?
It's the last question.
No, the deadline to revoke as of right was on April 22nd,
Yes.
2014, in connection with your final approval. Parties can still request revocation from your court, and it will be up to your court in your discretion to determine whether or not to grant the revocation. The NFL would not object to any parties who opted out requesting to re-enter the class.
Okay, all right.
And I did have one or two minor issues, if I could raise them with you.
Okay, of course.
So this is, I think this is new news, and it's very important, but you may recall that, or you may not know this, but I wrote a letter to the class back in June and July to inform them of where we were on the status of the settlement. One of the things I mentioned in that letter was to be aware of certain predatory lending practices.
Oh, yes.
So I just learned that in the last couple of days that the Attorney General of the state of New York has filed a complaint against one of those particular companies that I was concerned about. And in the complaint, it mentions that certain NFL players were loaned a certain amount of money and that exponential amounts were owed back. That is an issue that I know would concern Your Honor. It concerns us. And we intend to really drill down on that. But I would love for players who have taken out these loans, if they think there's something inappropriate about it, about the interest rates, I would like to know about it, and I'd like to bring it to the court's attention.
And how do they contact you, Mr. Siegel?
So you can get me through the NFL Concussion Settlement website. You can email me directly. You can look up my website at Seeger Weiss. I mean, I get a lot of emails, so I think they know how to find me. But this is a big item, and I don't want people to think they're alone on this. We understand that some of them may have been preyed upon. These loan agreements are likely, if the Attorney General of New York is right, are illegal, and we want to bring that to your Honor's attention.
And I may have some jurisdiction over this, but of course, that's still an open question.
Right.
But I certainly will look into it if it's brought to my attention.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
No, Your Honor, that's all I have for today, but thank you for your time.
We don't have anything further, Your
Okay,
Honor.
thank you very much. We'll see you again in a couple of months. Thank you. Court is adjourned.